Hi, it's Terry Ryder from Hotspotting. I just want to talk to you for a moment about pricing in Sydney to illustrate a point about prices in general. One of my themes, you may have heard me talk about more than once, is about the absurdity of trying to encapsulate all the growth that's happening in a nation or in a major city in a single growth figure. So, for example, you might see some research which says that Australian house prices grew 5% last year, for example. And my contention is it's actually an absurd notion because we have all these different situations happening in our major cities and our regional markets around Australia. To try and put it into a single figure that suggests that we have one market is just crazy. It's also crazy to try and do it for a single major city. Sydney, for example, 700 plus suburbs, lots of different sub-markets. It's very difficult to compare what's happening in the market in Bondi with what's happening in Penrith, for example. You can't compare the property market on the North Shore with what's happening down in the far southwest in places like Camden and Campbelltown, but they do. They'll produce a single growth figure for the city of Sydney saying house prices have risen or fallen X%. It's crazy. So here's some figures that break it down into sub-regions and just illustrate the point very, very well. That while overall the figures right now are depicting that Sydney prices are falling, but they're not falling everywhere. And in the various locations where prices are coming back a little bit, they're falling at different rates depending on which region you're talking about. So these latest figures from CoreLogic for the last 12 months talk about whether prices have risen or fallen in certain areas in the Sydney region. So while overall the single generalised figure might show a fall, there are parts of the Sydney market and markets near Sydney where prices, according to these figures, are still rising. The southwest and suburbs of Sydney still rising. The outer southwest still rising, the central coast still rising quite substantially. And then looking at other parts of the Sydney market, Parramatta down in annual terms just a little bit, 1%. The outer west and the Blue Mountains as a region down about 1%. So hardly any change at all there. But then there are other markets within the Sydney metropolitan area, particularly the so-called prime market, where the fall in values, according to these figures, has been quite substantial. The North Shore down 6%, the inner west down 9%, and City and inner south down 10%. So you've got all these various different situations. Baulkham Hills down only a couple of percent, Blackdown down 4%. But then if you go into the outer southwest, there's been, in annual terms, a small rise. So lots of different situations, as you might expect in a city the size of Sydney, that you're not going to have just one market situation playing out because you've got all these different markets with their own local characteristics and their own reasons to be either rising or falling. And it's just silly to try and put it all into a single figure. So these figures that were published earlier this week break it down into the various sub-regions, so showing that what's happening in the inner city suburbs of Sydney is very, very different, quite different, in stark contrast to what's happening in the southwest and the outer southwest and the central coast. And always keep that in mind when you read those figures in media talking about what's happening, so-called, with property prices in a single major city or indeed in the entire nation of Australia. It's mostly lies, damn lies, and statistics. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from Hotspotting signing off. Talk to you again soon.